Sober Truth. Sober Truth. You are now listening to the Sober Truth.
And welcome to The Sober Truth. My name is JT Hawker, and I am your host and creator of The Sober Truth. I'm really excited about this first podcast. It's been a lot of work and a lot of joy. This is something I wanted to do for a really long time, but was never sober enough to do it. So today we have Rachel J. She is a drug and alcohol counselor, as well as a sponsor and a psychology undergrad. She has over 8 years of sobriety. And so we'll be talking to her about how she does it. And right after that, we have Katie Pukash, a really good friend of mine who I did meet in recovery. And she's been there for me and lifted me up. And we're going to discuss stigma, and we're also going to hear her poem called 2020, and it's amazing. So here we go. All right, I am proud to present and introduce to you Rachel J. She is a drug and alcohol counselor, a psychology undergrad, and a 12-step sponsor. And she truly is an example of service in the program. She has over 8 years of sobriety, and I tell you, she really was one of those people that helped me along my journey, which I'm really, really grateful for. How you doing, Rachel?
Hi. And then I'm just gonna go into my story.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just give us some background of where you were and how long you were there, and how you managed to get out of it and be so successful, like a complete success story. Yeah.
All right. I always tell people that they're a miracle, and it's funny because I am a drug and alcohol counselor, and I'm constantly and I'm a sponsor. But I'm always telling people that they're a miracle, and sometimes I diminish the fact that I am a fucking miracle. Oh wait, are we not allowed to cuss?
No, you can fucking say whatever you want. You are a miracle still to this day. A miracle for other people.
So, let's see. So I'm 45 years old. So I was born in 1975. Which is probably whatever.
Well, I was born in 72, so
Okay.
I'm with you on that.
And I didn't get clean until I was 38. I mean, I didn't get clean for real. So
right.
I guess let me start at the beginning. So my name's Rachel. I'm an addict.
Hi, Rachel.
My drugs of choice were heroin, Xanax, and meth. But my first drug of choice was meth.
Okay.
No, my first drug of choice was weed, but
was alcohol ever in that picture too?
For sure, but I never had any consequences from alcohol.
Oh,
and
I see.
It's way more of a social thing, and that played a lot into several of my relapses.
Okay. God, yeah.
It talks about in the readings, like many of us thought alcohol was separate until we came to the room.
Yep.
Could not afford to be confused about this.
That's right.
Alcohol is a drug.
Okay.
So my clean date is December 18th, 2012.
Wow.
I have a sponsor, I have sponsees, and I absolutely believe in the 12 steps. The 12 steps changed my life. And not just the steps, like everything that they tell us to do in the program. Because you do have to have friends, you have to have fellowship, and you have to be of service, and
And honest. It's a big one.
yeah, you can't just do the steps and then not live the steps,
Right.
because that's not. Let's see. So I grew up in Ocean Beach. Ocean Beach, which is like at the time that I grew up there, it was like a small little town. It was kind of like a little hippie town. It's not like that anymore. Now it's all bougie.
Of course.
But and there was lots of bikers there. So I thought the coolest thing in the world was a Hell's Angel, and that'll play into my story eventually. But
Right.
So my dad is an addict. He died when in his addiction when I was 2 years sober.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Yeah, my mom was not really an addict. She was more like codependent.
Right. Which is a sickness in itself. Yeah.
And but she experimented with drugs, like at different points in her life. And by the time I was a teenager, she had divorced my dad and was kind of having like a midlife crisis. So like my house was the party house. It was like totally okay to like do drugs and get drunk and do all that teenage stuff.
Okay.
So I was pretty wild.
Because you were allowed to be, pretty much, like you were enabled in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
I bet that made you pretty popular, though.
Oh yeah. So popular. Let's see. So like I said, so my mom and dad divorced when I was about 12. I grew up in Ocean Beach. It was super fun. I went to punk rock shows. I love punk rock. And throughout high school, I mean, I tried every different kind of drug, but it was still, it was just like a fun time. I didn't have
right.
consequences. I did get, I did get kicked out of school, but that was like fighting.
I was just gonna ask if it affected like your grades or your academics or anything.
Oh, okay. And then another thing that I guess is kind of important is, like I was always really, really smart. Like when I was a little kid,
Mm-hmm.
They like did those tests or whatever, and they said, oh, you're gifted, and
oh wow,
I got to go to these special gate classes, and it was actually like an introduction. Like we got to go to museums, and I got to hang out with kids whose parents were not drug addicts, and it kind of enabled me to see that there was more to life.
Right.
And I always did well in school.
Okay.
But in high school, doing drugs and being popular was more important.
Right. That's when you're like, you don't give a fuck about anything else.
No. I went to several continuation schools, and the way the continuation school works is that you do these packets, and so I graduated 2 years early from continuation school.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty cool.
And when I graduated, I went to City College for like 3 semesters, and the first 2 semesters I did super good. The last semester, I really started doing like a lot of meth.
Okay.
And it kind of just like literally took over my life.
That's when shit goes downhill really fast. Did for me.
Yes. So let's see. When I turned 21, I went out with this guy who shot someone.
Oh.
And yes, and we.
You know how to pick him.
He was wanted for attempted murder, so we went on the run.
Oh my god. You are a rebel, man.
Yes. We went to Vegas, and it was quite an adventure. So basically, basically up until, in 2004, I was dating a Hells Angel. You know, there was a huge indictment that went down. Everybody got busted. You know, and I was, you know, like we were told, hey, if your old man, you know, if the cops come, you just say it's yours. And I didn't know that wasn't going to help him, like when there was an indictment.
Oh my
anyway,
gosh.
so when they came to the house, you know, they had found different, you know, like all the drugs. I said, oh, it's mine. And so you know, I got arrested.
Wow.
And they, you know, eventually, I mean, like that was my first time ever being in trouble. And
You must have loved him a lot to do that. Or thought you did.
I just didn't know any better. You
Yeah.
know, like being the cool, you know, like having this image of myself. And this is absolutely one of the things that for sure that I struggled with when I got into recovery is, you know, and all of us, we have this image of ourselves, you know, and I wanted to be this like down, you know, solid, you know, cool girl. Or
right.
let's see.
So you were, you were willing to
very,
take that hit for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The very first introduction to like my very first meeting ever was in 2004. Like, they arrested me. They told me, you know, eventually they said, well, you can either go do a year in county or you can do a year in rehab. And I was just like, well, of course I'm going to do the
right. That's a long rehab.
Yes. I went to. Are we allowed to say treatment centers or not?
No, I think it's fine. Yeah. I mean.
Okay. Because this isn't like an actual meeting.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I didn't mention. That's why I didn't mention where you are employed, because I didn't know if you wanted to keep that private. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would feel about
right.
it. Okay, so I went to Choices in Recovery in Vista, and I grew up in San Diego my whole entire life, and I didn't even know Vista existed. It was in like the North County part of San Diego County.
Right.
And the treatment center I went to was so cool. There was this man, his name was Steve Regard, and he made recovery look cool. You know, he owned the treatment center.
Right.
You know, his groups were awesome. He played in a band, and he would take all the clients to like Hard Rock Cafe and like bars, and you know, his band would play. You know, and we would be sober, and like he was able to show us like, look, you can have a good time being sober.
Right. Or even a better time.
And you know, I'm pretty, you know, as all addicts probably, I'm pretty good at, you know, getting with the program and, you know, like being in a program or being in jail, or, you know, when someone else is structuring my time for me.
Yep.
Super key.
I understand that.
But, you know, I wasn't anywhere near done, and I you know, I relapsed at like 11 months, and that's when I met Hannah's dad. And Hannah's dad was a heroin addict. I had never used a needle before I met her dad.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, I ended up doing heroin, and you can't really shoot up speed by itself, or you'll lose your mind. And I think with any addict, you know, like it always becomes this, you know, this elusive concoction of like different amounts of drugs that are going to like get you to where you need to go.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Speed
Like,
makes, you know,
yeah.
speed, you go too fast, and so then, and it makes you angry at everybody. So then you have to do a little Xanax, or you have to do a little heroin to come down.
Oh yeah, that gives me anxiety just thinking about it. I remember just all day, every day, having to balance that out. I'd be like, I gotta do meth so that I have energy, and then I have too much energy, so I gotta take a Xanax to come down, but then I'm down too far, and it just becomes a nightmare.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of fast forward. Like,
okay.
I mean, I absolutely, you know, like, because I do. I mean, like, the qualifying part is important.
Yes.
I've been to jail many times. Of course, the first time you go to jail, you're like scared. You think it's like going to be this thing, but eventually you get used to it very, very quickly. And towards the end of my, you can become institutionalized. And towards the end of my addiction, I think I had a better time in jail than I did out on the streets. I laughed more because I was sober,
Yep.
And like I said, like in a structured environment, it's like so much easier. You don't have to make decisions for yourself. You don't have to live life on life's terms.
Yeah.
So a lot of, so in my early 20s, I was a stripper, that like eventually like migrated into like prostitution, but it was like, I made all these like justifications because I wasn't like, a prostitute that walked, on the street corner. I was like, one that got like lots of money,
High class, huh?
And I only talk about that because it's like super, so in my very first one of my very first meetings, this girl, she's she was at this mixed meeting. It was like 100 people, and she talked about being a prostitute, going to prison, shooting up in front of her kids, all this stuff that I was like, oh my God, that's my story, but I could never say that out loud in front of 100 people.
Right.
Plus one person. Like, I didn't even think I was ever going to tell one person that. And that literally sparked some hope. I was just like, oh my God, like one day I can be okay with this, and I don't have to hold this shame, inside my heart about, this stuff. And
it's like a God shot then.
Funny, yes. And it's so cute because I have this sponsee, and she is 50 years old, and we started working the steps, and she's like so willing, and she was talking about like, oh my God, I found out that I have a disease. I'm not a terrible person. I just have a disease. And I've never been yes.
I was there once.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like, I talked about stigma. Like, that is the stigma,
Mhm.
There's this one, so there's the singer of one of like my favorite punk bands got sober like 30 years ago, and he does this really cool like little spiel, and he talks about how like addiction is the only disease where if you relapse, everyone like shuns you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if your aunt had like cancer and her cancer came back, they would be like, oh, get your
Yeah,
your ruined Christmas. You
get
can't
your
come
shit
over."
together. What's your
Oh,
problem? You suck. Yeah, it is. It truly is part of that.
Yeah. When Grandpa has a heart attack, we don't yell at him for eating, eating too much bacon and.
Well, we might.
Okay. So anyway, like I said, that very first time that I went to rehab, and Steve Gard really was like, when I actually was ready, I did come back to that treatment center. Like this last, like the 8 years of sobriety,
Mhm.
I graduated from that treatment center.
Was that so? It was so you went twice.
I went twice.
Okay. I've got you beat.
Well, I've gone to several other treatment centers.
Oh, I see.
And but they were all like kind of like state or county run.
Right. They're shady.
I could absolutely see the if I had ever been if I had ever had insurance, like I could absolutely see how I might have like stayed out there longer, because
Yep.
like whenever you feel like you need a rest, you can go to like
Yeah.
some bougie place in New York or Orange County or Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been told by some family members that it's summer camp because I usually go during the summertime. uh,
um, so, and uh, to be clear, like the party was over. Like
mm-hmm.
I was just telling someone else about like rehab relationships because I met Hannah's dad at the Sober Living.
Okay. Oh wow.
And I had Hannah when I was 30, and that is actually like that's when the drugs, stopped working.
Right.
And when people say, "Oh, what do you mean the drugs stopped working?" Well,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I didn't get high anymore, but um, when I prior to having Hannah, like when I did drugs, the emotional pain is gone, and I didn't care. And
Right.
having Hannah, like that didn't go away. Like I still felt like a piece of shit, and I still thought about my problems, and I still thought about like what am I doing with my life? I'm a shitty mom.
Right.
I'm a dude. I'm like that stuff that you like try and pretend like it doesn't care, but it or try and pretend like it doesn't matter, but it actually matters.
Yeah, it's like the disease is like making you feel that way because it wants to use again, basically.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So like I said, I went to several treatment centers. I relapsed on alcohol because I thought like, dude, I'm a drug addict. I have drug problems.
I know. I hear you.
And it always led me back to once I started once I got on the needle, like there was nothing compared to that.
Right.
And at least deep down, and I've conceded to my innermost self that I'm allergic to any mind-altering substance.
Right.
And about me and my cigarette thing, like that's a drug, and I'm like so out of control with it.
I am too. It's like I want to quit, but I don't want to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like what worked for me this time is I really, really took suggestions. I found a sponsor that I really related to, and I really, I knew she was an addict like me. She was a little white lady from Detroit who was a heroin addict.
Right. Well, it's important to find the right person. It makes a big difference.
Yes. She spoke my language, and she never like told me what to do. She would always be like, well, when you get in enough pain, you'll change.
Right. Because she'd already been through it herself. She knew.
Yes. Yes, she's an amazing lady. Debbie C.
Debbie C.
Debbie C. And let's see, important things. So when I got 10 months clean, this girl asked me to sponsor her, and I had asked Debbie. I'm like, well, I'm not. I was on step 10. I was like, this girl asked me to sponsor her. I told her I'd ask you, and she's like, well, do you think you're gonna lag on the steps like until she passes you? And I'm like, no. Okay, ready.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
And that woman was the only, so far, was the only woman that I've taken through all 12 steps. I think this new sponsee that I have is going to be the second, but I've for sure probably at least had 50 sponsees.
I've always wondered about that. I'm a sponsor now. I don't have a sponsee yet, but I'm raising my hands at meetings. I always wondered, like how many out of 100? Like 3, 4? Like that's got to be difficult to see.
Not when you realize that like it's just it's a process. It's
right.
a journey.
Yep.
And all and I absolutely know that there were many people before I was ready to get sober that said some like really deep, spiritual shit that that I just thought was the stupidest
Mhm.
stuff in the whole world
Yep.
when they were saying it. But later on, like, I was like, man,
Yep.
I wish I would have listened to that person. Or, you know, the stuff that like now I tell other people.
Exactly, and hope that they absorb it and practice it or whatever, you know.
Yeah. So my sponsor told me to get 5 people that I trust, and
Mhm.
she told me that when I first got sober, she said, "You make bad decisions. You are not gonna, and so you need to like get 5 people you trust, and you need to like when you need to make a decision more consequential than like what you're gonna have for dinner, you need to run it by those people."
Yep. I remember you telling me that when I was down in California when I first met you, and I actually started doing it because I realized that yeah, my decisions, the first instinct is going to be wrong, and it absolutely helped me. Like, you know, 5 people saying, "Nah, it's not such a good idea," then I'm thinking, yeah, they're probably right.
I found a Xanax in my glasses case. Should I take it?
Lucky 8 Ball says, "Ask me later."
Oh, that is so funny. I used to have one of those.
Yeah, me too. They were fun.
Let's see. Oh wait, well, okay. So the 5 people, and you know, my higher power works through other people.
Mhm.
You know, and like that guy Steve Regard, he was like really influential in my you know, in my recovery. Like he saved my life, and you know, even this last time, I was a terrible client. Like I was like fraternizing. It was a co-ed program. You know, like every single day, I thought I was going to get caught. You know, and they were going to call me in the office and kick me out for like,
Right.
you know, having sex with the other.
Which is basically so your disease acting out in other ways. You're still having the same behavior, just not the chemicals.
Well, actually, that you do get the chemicals. Like,
Mm.
you know, when somebody likes you, you get that dopamine. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
small,
you're
it's
right.
like a smaller, but you get that dopamine rush.
That makes sense. Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, so he asked me to be a house manager when I graduated, and I was like, no, I'm not. I can barely be responsible for myself, and I'm not telling on people.
Right.
Like, don't worry about it, Munchie. You just tell them, dude, you need to tell on yourself.
Right.
That's actually what I did. But, you know, like, I didn't want to do it, but I listened to Debbie, and I said, okay, let me ask my 5 people. My 5 people said, yes, you should do it.
Wow.
And that turned into, like once I was a house manager, like I took that serious. Like, so I wasn't gonna like run around the rooms and just like act like a retard, you know,
Right.
and do all the wrong things. Like now I'm a house manager, I'm responsible for these people, and I have to be a good example.
Yes.
And that was absolutely what I needed. And then because like I did a really good job, like there was the assistant director hated me, and he did not think that I could do that job. But eventually he saw that I could do the job, and then they hired me as the intake coordinator, and they sent me to school to get my drug counselor credential.
Oh wow.
And that is what, you know, like I started going to school, and I'm like, man, I remember I used to love school, and
Right.
and I got my AA. And then I transferred to Cal State San Marcos, and I'm doing big things at Cal State San Marcos. I'm like I'm like a research assistant in a lab. I'm like a McNair scholar.
Yeah, you've had to
like,
write a lot of papers and do these big presentations to panels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
participate in like research symposiums and stuff. and that's all like uncomfortable stuff,
Yeah.
and like, and that's what we, that's what we have to do. Like the only way out of something is through it.
Yep. Yep. And the program taught you that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Suit up and show up and fake it if you.
Yeah, I mean.
Smile and nod and do what the other people are doing.
Right. So how's that going? Like, how much longer do you have?
So I'm graduating in spring of 2022.
Very close.
And I'm gonna apply to a couple of different graduate programs, and I do want to get like my MFT or my LPCC, so then I could be a therapist.
What's an MFT? Well, I don't know that one.
So an MFT is a marriage and family therapist.
Okay.
And I mean, you've been to treatment, like all the therapists, like
Yep.
None of them ever did drugs before, and all the drug counselors are in recovery.
Yes.
But it would be really helpful to have a therapist who's done drugs, who
absolutely.
has that experience. Oh.
Yep, I have noticed that in the 4 rehabs I've been to, that it is that way.
Yeah. And I love school. School's awesome, I like to be stimulated. I like to be challenged. I like, I like the atmosphere of like, everybody on campus is like young and idealistic, and they want to change the world. I want to be part of that.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty inspiring to be able to go from where you were to where you are. I like the part where you talked about, getting opportunities that were presented to you and saying yes. Because a lot of times, at least for me, the fear of doing something different and scary would like just prevent me from doing it. And I'm learning now, like when I say yes to things and just like you said, go through it, my life changes.
Yeah, because it's all. I mean, being on this planet is literally just a learning experience.
Yes, it's a journey. Yep.
And I wouldn't be the person that I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have those. If I didn't have, I know a lot of us when we get into rehab, we think, oh man, I wasted all that time.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't. You didn't waste all that time. Like all that time was like experience, strength, and you overcoming it is, you're going to provide hope,
right?
And show people that, hey, dude, I told you, I did this. You can do this. And it's so cool because there's this. So I'm also involved in this program. It's called Project Rebound, and it's like it's for formerly incarcerated students.
That's cool.
Yes, and the professor that runs that always says, "Each one teach one," and I think that's so cool.
What is it?
Each one teach one. Like
right.
Each person that breaks through that door, or like breaks through that glass ceiling or whatever it is, you teach someone else, and,
yes.
And that's what we do in recovery.
Yeah, and it is more for you than it is for them sometimes. It's like keeps you on the right track.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually a completely symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Where the sponsor gets as much as the sponsee and the sponsor get equal amount of benefit from the relationship.
Yep.
Like I said, that my new sponsee, she just inspires me, and and she helps remind me of like how it felt in the beginning.
Right.
So I don't forget where I came from, because the longer we stay sober, the less we can kind of, I was talking to my friend Esther, and she was like, bitch, I don't know if I could relapse. She's like, I'm like way too bougie now.
She's too good for that peasant stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about that today, actually. I don't remember what I was doing, but I was like, man, it wasn't really that bad this last time I relapsed. Like, I didn't go to the hospital 3 times, but still, I was drinking and driving and, throwing up in my car and taking it was just, yeah, I don't know. I try to remember that as much as I can, but the feelings, of that fear and that gift of desperation, like you said, the further you get away from it, like it kind of goes away.
Well, you literally lose that gift of desperation like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me though, this last time, what made the difference, because I have done like the steps, not this last time honestly, but I think it was my relationship with God changed. Like it became more of a, like before I was just like, yeah, I have a higher power, but I really didn't feel that connection, and I was praying wrong. I wasn't I was just praying for myself, like, help me do this, help me do that, and I wasn't thanking God for all my blessings and everything that I have in my life. The gratitude, it made a big difference.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I don't have a specific religion, but I absolutely agree with you that, like, being able to like believe just in the goodness of the universe,
Yeah.
and knowing that, like, and I literally sometimes I'm just like, look, we're like a cell phone, okay, and when we like start running down and we need more juice, we can like plug into the universe's charger at any time.
I love that, and I feel the same way about that. I choose to say God. It just makes things way easier than, people would come up to me when I'd say higher power, and they'd be like, "What's your higher power?" They wanted me to describe something. So yeah, I was just easier to say God.
Yes. Well, I say God too.
So, did you say the first person you sponsored went through the 12 steps?
All through all 12 steps.
See, that's pretty cool, because my sponsor, Corey, he was only 9 months. Well, I shouldn't say only. 9 months is a big deal. And I was a little, like, leery about that. I was like, oh, he's only got 9 months. And my other sponsor had, like, 25 years, and the other one had 17. But what I found out was, because he was so much closer to where I was, and he was still remembering it all, that, I mean, he took me through the steps amazing. And I was his very first sponsee. And yeah, and he's like, well, you got me off to a good start. Now, I just hope I can keep doing it. But yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah, and I was talking to someone else, and I was saying, hey, look, you can have 7 years clean and have a shitty recovery program.
Yep. Absolutely. You can be miserable.
And, it doesn't, I mean, it really doesn't matter how much time you have. If you completed all 12 steps and you have a sponsor and you're working with your if you continue to work with your sponsor, then you're qualified. Oh, and you've used drugs or
right. Right.
And back in the day when they first started, when they first started AA, like, nobody had 3 years.
Right. They're like, what do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
And actually, if I didn't work in treatment, like, I wouldn't be able to keep up with all this, like, all the new stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's gotta be.
I also have a 14-year-old daughter, so she kind of keeps me hip to the skip all the time.
Yeah, I bet. How do you find the balance in your life to do all the things you're doing, because that is something that I'm struggling with a little bit. Is I need to make it to meetings and I need to get a sponsee, but I've also got X, Y, and Z going on all at the same time, and I sometimes I feel overrun, and then I want to skip that meeting, but I know I can't. I don't know. It's just the balance thing is going to be something I'm going to have to practice at.
Well, I'm kind of a type A personality.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah.
Like most alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that I do take on a little too much,
Mm-hmm. You have a lot on your plate.
Yes. But, like, it like having a having a sponsee
Mm-hmm.
is, like, super important because what I do is I will say, okay, I'll make a commitment to my sponsee, like, okay, I'm going to take you to this meeting.
Right.
And so now, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is no getting tired.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
makes sense.
Or, the Monday night meeting that I have, which is my home group, there's so many times when I don't feel like going,
right.
But I have the newcomer liaison, so I have to go. I have a commitment at that meeting.
Right. For me, when I don't want to go and I go, I always feel really good when I leave. Like extra, I always get something. At least one thing in every meeting.
You know what is funny, and I think this is absolutely a symptom of my disease, is that anything that's good for me, like I have to psych myself up about it, like whether it's going to meetings or working out or, doing my homework or like whatever it is, like I have to force myself to do it, but then after I do it, I always feel so much better.
Yes. Yes. And it's like, why did I make myself so miserable about having to do this thing that makes me feel good, but I'm willing to shoot up drugs to feel like shit easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that self-destructive tendency that we all have.
Yeah.
Which is why you have to continue to live the steps, because my disease will manifest in a million other ways.
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone else about how I can't be like into a show. I can't even start a book like a for pleasure book
right.
while I'm doing school, because I will literally stay, like I'll get my schoolwork done, but then it'll be like 2:00 in the morning. I'm done with my schoolwork and I want to watch one or two shows.
Right.
And so I don't get to sleep until 4:00 in the morning. So I literally just don't read any like for pleasure books, and I don't start like series.
Well, yeah, you can't, because it's like by the time you get to the next episode, it's been 4 months and you've forgotten everything that was going on in the first place. So, I was always going to ask you one more question about when your drug and alcohol counselor. Who do you use? What kind of how do I want to say this? What kind of qualities do you see in a person? Is there anybody who has a better chance than anybody else going through the program?
No, absolutely not. Like, everyone has, really, like I was one of those people that nobody thought that was going to make it.
Yep.
And I mean, literally, okay, so they say it like in the NA book, it's open-mindedness, honesty, and willingness.
Yep.
Okay, if you have those three things, that that's and really, you're not usually honest or open-minded. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
But as long as you are willing, like, and that was literally it. Like, so my sponsor, she would like tell me to do things, and I'd be like, but she told me to pray, and I was like, okay, all right, imaginary man in the sky.
Yeah. Just being a jerk about it.
Doing this.
That's funny.
Um, I was strung out on. So actually, I was like so desperate, and like literally, that's kind of where it is. The gift of desperation. Like,
Yeah.
I was strung out with Xanax. I couldn't sleep for days and days and days, and my son said,
Miserable.
Have you tried praying? And I'm like, how is that going to help? Like, well, how's it going to work? And so, literally, my very first prayer was, "Okay, imaginary dude in the sky. If you really want me to stay here, then you're going to let me get an hour of sleep."
I like that.
And I did. And I was like,
Huh.
all right, well,
okay.
I guess I'll ask him again.
Right? So there was something to it. But your willingness to do, those things, and you're like, well, fuck it. I'm going to do it because I've tried everything else. So,
yeah.
And you started out with Imaginary Man in the Sky. I like that. Yeah, I know for me, like the first few rehabs I went through, I was always judging like who was gonna make it and who wasn't. I'm like, oh, she's fucked. Oh, he's fucked. And then, 6 months later, I'm back in rehab, and they're like a year clean or whatever. So, you just have to be that person that's willing to do it. And it doesn't matter your age or your background.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have some time, you can go on TikTok, and they'll literally show you every single stereotype of people in rehab who aren't going to make it.
Oh, really?
The cool guy having sex with every girl.
Right.
The girl that's like taking everybody's inventory. I like follow a whole bunch of
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel, you know how much I love you and I appreciate you. You certainly were key instrumental into me surviving this last time. I know that we got off on a rough start, all about telling you I wasn't going to do shit, and I hope that I met your expectations. I really put a lot of work into it.
You are such a miracle, JT, and I love you so much. And it's successes like, it's miracles like you that help me, like someone, one of the newer counselors, asked me, she's like, sometimes I just get so bummed. I'm like, dude, trust me, you're going to, like, you just have to hold on to the miracle.
Right. Yeah. You have to know that it's going to be that way, but that's got to be hard.
We just have to remember, like I had the honor and privilege to watch you bloom, We don't always get to watch the flowers bloom. Like, sometimes we plant and we have to move on,
Right.
And we don't get to watch the flower bloom, but it's still a miracle, and you're still being a part of it.
Absolutely. So, and I think what would you say to what's your biggest piece of advice, I guess, or suggestion, I should say?
Okay, so my best piece of advice is to get a sponsor that you trust and respect, and do what they tell you to do.
Yeah. This last time was the first time I was actually willing to take the suggestion and just do it. Just fucking do it. Like, why the fuck not? Because before, when my sponsor would ask me to do something, I'd be, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then hang up the phone and be like, fuck that. It's like, and then turn around and tell him, oh yeah, I did that, and then just shallow 4 steps and all that. So I love that piece of advice. And I would also say to anybody, just never give up on yourself. It doesn't matter if it takes 10 times, just do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Rachel. I know that we were kind of bouncing around on schedules for like 2 weeks. I'm glad we finally got to talk. Thank you for listening, and please stay with me for my interview with Katie Pukash. It's a really great interview, and you're really going to like this woman. She's amazing and one of my dear friends. And you'll also get to hear a really great poem called 2020. Welcome back and welcome to the Sober Truth Artist Profile segment. I am very, very proud to present my featured artist of the month, Katie Pukash. She is an artist, a poet, she's a writer, an activist, a student, and a survivor. Katie and I met a few years ago when I can't speak for her, but I was in one of the darkest places in my life. And Katie has been there for me ever since to help lift me up. She is one of the most courageous people I know and one of the most kind-hearted. So welcome, Katie.
Hi there.
How are you doing today?
I am doing lovely. I'm in the process of moving, so I'm laying in bed at my old apartment, and this is the only thing in my apartment is the mattress.
Nice. So it's nice and quiet in there for us today.
Yes, definitely.
So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Katie.
So yeah, I am a writer. I do visual art. Right now, I am currently in school for the first time, which is, I'm proud to say, I never thought I would go to college. At a young age, I got kicked out of cosmetology school, so I just never thought school was for me. But here I am, back in school, doing what I love, and I'm studying therapeutic horticulture. Currently doing an internship at City Light Women's Shelter with their gorgeous 27-bed garden. I'm running their garden program.
That's right.
And yeah, oh my goodness, it is. I am just such a blessed place in my life, and I couldn't be more thankful to where this path has gone. You know, even through the wreckage of 2020, I can still say, like, hey, I made some really, really big leaps and bounds in my life, and I'm proud to say that, you know?
Yeah, 2020 was a rough year. It was rough, but at the same time, it was a really good time for me to sober up. Because if somebody can stay clean and sober through all of that, then I don't know. I think that just kind of gave me a baseline to be able to make it through. So tell me a little bit more about this women's shelter. Like, I bet that is something that's very rewarding for you and rewarding for them. And just takes away from the stress of life.
Yeah, totally. So I am working, it's part of the Boys to Rescue mission. It's their City Light. I'm working with the women in our New Life Recovery program. So I work with I have 11 women right now that are in the garden program with me. They are a part of the New Life Recovery Addiction Recovery program at City Light. And we meet like 2 to 3 times a week, and we work in the garden, you know, and so therapeutic horticulture is basically finding healing and health and well-being through the active or passive involvement of plants and plant activities.
That is so perfect for you.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so perfect.
It's very perfect for you.
I love it so much.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to, yeah, it's super rewarding, you know. The women, oh gosh, I'm so blessed to work with them. It's just so amazing. We planted last week, yesterday we planted some annual flowers, and it's just such a beautiful time to see a part of their recovery, a part of their journey. It's just, oh my goodness. It is the most rewarding thing I could ever have imagined. Like, every time after I've done with sessions with them, I am just ear to ear smiling, you know, because I just feel so happy that I get to be a part of their journey.
Yeah, and it's what would be the word copacetic? Like, it helps you both. It helps all of you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, yeah. It helps me because honestly, one of the things I was excited about taking this internship was that I would have to suit up and show up for other people throughout the summer. And throughout the summer is usually when I get depressed. And surprisingly, I usually go depressed in the summer. So
that's weird. I'm totally opposite.
I'm kind of an oddball there.
Yeah.
I always go depressed in the summertime. But I just was like, this is a great opportunity for me to be able to suit up, show up, be get out of my comfort zone and maybe push through that depression, you know? And so they're actually, they don't even know it, but they're helping me in that way to give me purpose. They're giving me purpose all over the board. So I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. And actually, that's a perfect segue. We're going to be discussing like stigma in our culture today and how it affects, addicts or people with mental health issues or from seeking out to get help. Has stigma affected you with that depression or mental health or anything like that? Has it kind of made it harder for you to reach out for help, or did it make it harder to reach out for help? Was there some sort of like shame in it at all in the beginning? How was that for you?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, actually, there's a big stigma in my story. There's a lot of it.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed bipolar at a really young age. However, I did not know I was diagnosed bipolar because my providers and my parents were afraid to tell me because of the stigma around.
No.
They did not want to label me as like crazy, right? Because
Right.
I'm bipolar with psychotic features, and I did not then know how important my meds were. I had no idea what it was. So like my first manic episode happened, and I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "What is happening?" And I called my parents. I'm living in LA at the time, like alone, away from family.
Wow.
And I called my parents. I'm like, "What's happening?" And they're like, "Oh, honey, you have bipolar."
Oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, those pills you take are because oh no, I'm sorry about that, Katie.
It's pretty funny. It's actually kind of funny now.
Right.
Looking back on
Yeah,
it.
kind of.
And not being able to even accept my diagnosis for such a long time. And I think, that stigma within myself,
Right.
and it's like self-stigma. It's like saying, okay, no, this isn't real, or trying to push it away. And that's stigma too.
Yep.
Not being able to accept my diagnosis fully, but I'm in a much better place now with it, where I accept my diagnosis, I take my meds, I do what I need to do to stay on track. But even in the realm of addiction, stigma has played such a role in my life that I'm not open with most people in my life to the deepest of my struggles.
It's like a protective guard you need to put up almost, because people start looking at you differently or treating you differently when you tell them certain things about yourself. I know I have, very few people I tell that I'm in recovery because I've had experiences where I do, and then they just kind of don't talk to me anymore, or they just treat me just different. It's just different. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, they kind of shrivel because they don't know, And so it touched us. It's kind of like this topic that's kind of put to the side in our society,
Yep.
Addicts are seen as less than.
Yes.
They're seen as not the same as normal people. But
Right.
we are. You know what I mean? Like, addicts are no less than any other person. And that's where I really struggle with it, just looking out into society and people, treating addicts in a certain way. And that, to me, is just heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. Because it's like, man, you drink your coffee every morning. We
Yeah.
all have our things. We all have our vices. We're just human, and we just want to connect and be loved and love. And
That is
I find
perfect.
that hard to see, like, when other people don't do that towards addicts just because they're addicts.
Yep. Yeah, I do know, and I agree with that 100%. We're human beings. We feel. We are compassionate and empathetic, and we should be valued as just everybody else. And so I don't know what we can do. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of struggling with that thought of like, what do we do, or what do I do personally to start maybe changing people's minds? Do I just be open and honest about my addiction, once people get to know me, in hopes that they're like, oh, he's a normal person. Because oftentimes they labeled it as junkies or homeless or drunks. They don't visualize it as somebody that is like you and I, and not that homeless people are any less, because they're not. And a lot of them have mental health issues. I mean, it's just, Yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of putting this show on today. I'm hoping people will kind of
Yeah.
wrap their mind around what we can do to stop the stigma. And I think it's just maybe more education, but then where do you reach them? Do you reach them in school or I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a big topic, and it's such a big issue to tackle.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Just starting with the stigma with ourselves. And the funny thing, I'm glad you brought that up of just like people being labeled junkies or whatever. Like one reason why I was able to, I still had my addiction issues from my past from a lot of people, but
Hmm.
like looking at me, no one would ever label me those things.
No.
You know
No.
what I mean?
I
Just
do.
because I don't have the look. But you better bet I was one of those things.
Yeah.
And so I think even that, like coming out as just like would break the stigma in a way of just saying like, hey, I went to work every day. I busted my ass. I had a car, but I
Right.
was still an addict.
Yep.
I was
Yep.
still a downright addict. And I think that even breaks the stigma. Like we're not, we're just people. We're
Yeah.
just people, just like everyone else.
Yeah. We just happen to have this thing, this disease that affects us in a different way. It gives us what they would call maybe an allergy to it. And
Yeah.
I think that people don't understand that. They think it's a choice. And so that's where the judgment comes in. I know for me, I did not seek help for years and years, because I was so afraid. I mean, I knew I needed rehab. I knew I needed help, but I was
Mhm.
so afraid of not necessarily what my family would think, because they already knew, like it was obvious that something was wrong with me. But like my job and my friends and like, how am I going to explain this to people? It's embarrassing. I have to leave
Yeah.
work for a month, and where do I tell people I'm going or where I've gone? And like it was just really really scary. And then the idea of rehab I had in my mind was that I was going to be, because I was still in that frame of mind, I'm going to be locked up with a bunch of junkies. They're going to, beat me up and steal my stuff. Like, I I had
And
no,
you look at me, my high squeaky voice. I'm like, hello, Ryan. Hey, yeah, I'm never gonna
yes,
be.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it was a relieving when I got there and to meet people like you. But it did take a long time. And I feel like, through those years, I could have died. I don't even know how many times, and that's not an exaggeration. I could have killed somebody
Yeah.
else while I was driving. Like it's just it's heartbreaking to me that I know that there's probably thousands upon thousands of people out there that are in the same situation. So that's kind of why I'm trying
Oh,
to bring this up.
yeah. I mean, it totally breaks my heart too. It's like thinking about the times I have died and then been saved
Yeah,
by medicine that is readily available.
yeah,
Like my goodness, it just brings tears to my eyes just thinking about those who are struggling. I was like, those Facebook memories that pop up.
yeah, yep.
I was looking at Facebook memories, and it was like a time in my life where I was really struggling. It wasn't even a picture of me. It was literally a video of someone else. I knew where I was at that
Oh,
time,
yep.
and I was just like, oh my god, I was hurting so much. I was so unhappy, and oh my gosh, it just brings tears to my eyes. But I just want people to know that they don't have to, like, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid. It's okay, because I think we're starting. At least for some of us. I mean, addicts are one of the best people I know.
I agree.
Like, you know what I mean?
I agree. Empathetic, compassionate,
So
artistic.
empathetic,
Yeah.
so compassionate, and because they've been through hell and back, and they know what it's like. So they're never going to judge you for your hell.
That's right.
Because all of our hells look different. But hey, that's okay. It's okay. But people don't understand that hells can look different.
Yeah.
And even if they do a bad person, it just makes you. That's your story. That's your story. Scream your story, man. Because the more we do that, the more we normalize it.
I love it, and I agree with you 100%. I think that sometimes, like for me, I get locked into a community where because I do AA and NA, I go to those programs. I'm a sponsor. I'm just involved in it, I build my community around those people because they have a connection with me and I them that is like no other. And so sometimes I'm afraid I'm going to get in that bubble and not like, move outside of it so that I can express this to what people would call normies. However, I would say to anybody out there, like, build your community the way I've built it if you're struggling, because it is like really, especially for me in my first year, um, after several relapses, 3 rehabs in 4 years. I'm in my first year. I'm coming up on 9 months, and I need to stay in that bubble for now.
Congratulations. Let's pause there for a second. 9 months is huge. Congratulations. I'm so
Thank
proud
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Let's not blaze over that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just I loved what you said about that, Katie, about just I don't know quite how you expressed it, like just screaming it out loud or just being proud of who you are. I mean, in the long run, who gives a fuck what other people think? Only the people you love, and I think that's where I'm at right now. Is that I just like, if I've told people at work, like, people have asked me where I'm heading after work, and I'll say I'm going to an AA meeting, and I've been really surprised with a lot of them are like, "Oh wow, how long have you been doing that? And how is that going? And congratulations!" And I have a brother who, or I have a mother who, or I have a cousin. Everybody that I say that to knows someone. So I don't.
Everyone is through addiction in some way or another.
Yep.
And how stigma is just beyond me. It's just the education part of just, it's honestly it's simple ignorance, in my opinion, not knowing.
Yeah.
But even though I don't scream my story fully, and that's only to necessarily my family members.
Right.
Almost everyone else in my life knows my story deeply. Right. But also, I think changing stigma starts with like just changing one normie's mind.
Yes.
Like, I'm dating a normie. And
yes,
and
you
I remember
are.
one time we were on the porch, and we were on the porch, and this guy walked by and wanted a cigarette, so I bummed him a cigarette, and my boyfriend kind of got upset, and I was like, why? I just like, why? What's up, man? What's going on? Let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I definitely think I have changed his mind in the way of like not looking down on people who are different than him,
Right.
And I think that's like where we start ending that stigma is just by changing one person's mind.
I love
because
that.
Then they can, and then they can change somebody else's mind, and that's kind of where it starts. You just, that way. But
yeah, I love that, and hopefully we can get to a place where, it won't be such a stigma, and people can just go get help when they need help, and less people will die from this disease. So I love it.
And different avenues of help,
Yeah.
And different avenues of help, just whether it be outpatient treatment, inpatient treatment, AA, NA, going to different clinics, just all different avenues of help to save a life,
Yep.
And not to stigmatize the other routes of getting help, even like, I don't know, like the methadone clinics, that saves lives,
Yep.
Yet there's a stigma around, there's a whole other stigma around that, like there's stigma around even addiction recovery.
Yeah.
And so I think and that stigma too of the different routes of recovery, because people can recover in so many different ways, and no matter which way you recover in, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like however you recover is fucking rad.
Yep.
In my opinion,
yes.
It's fucking rad.
Yes, it is, and it's the most courageous thing you can do in your life.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Katie. I'm excited to hear the poem that you have selected. Well, we kind of selected it. I couldn't decide between the ones you sent because they're all very good. The one you're reading today is called 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's called 2020. About last year.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's Katie Pukash with 2020.
The church bells north of State Street still chime every day at noon. There's a 20-car pileup on I-84 There's a 20-car pileup on I-84 every day at noon. My grandmother thumbs her rosary twice, then forgets. She kisses my mask. I push her away. I miss hugging my mother. I miss crying in a crowd. I miss feeling lonely when I actually wasn't. The radio host repeats a number, and I swallow yesterday's coffee. I'm stuck in traffic on the freeway. The bastard behind me honks, airs his middle finger, and speeds past the wreckage on the shoulder. Every day this pile up. Every day this bastard is late for something. Every day I hold my grandmother's rosary and pray for him. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. It's intense, but it's beautiful. You know, there's some moments in there that made me like just kind of my shoulders get tight. You know, I think about the same thing happening every day, and just like when you talked about kissing your grandmother's mask. I mean,
She does that. Oh my gosh, it breaks my heart. That's the truth. Because I do my grandmother's hair every 3 weeks, and she always wants to, and she struggles with dementia. She has dementia, and she'll kiss my mask, and I have to say, no, grandma, no kisses, and it just breaks my heart every time. You know, like, it's just so hard. So that's a really true part of my story.
Yeah.
Of this one, at least. But,
well, that was an absolutely beautiful poem. Can you tell people where they can read more or look at your artwork or just maybe kind of send you a message or whatever?
Yeah, so I usually operate out of Instagram. My handle, is it called a handle? My Instagram handle?
Yeah,
I don't really.
I think so.
Is Other Loving. There, I usually post a lot of art there. I haven't been doing much writing these days, but I do post writing there when I can.
Yeah.
You can also just Google my name and find a couple pieces online that have been published. But yeah, Other Lovings is where it's from.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If they want to just put a Google Katie, Katie, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And Pukash, Pukash.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Well, Katie, I love you and I appreciate you coming on today. You mean the world to me, and I was honored that you said yes when I asked you to do this segment.
Oh, I love you too, and I'm really proud of you. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your support, and I hope that you'll be listening on the next podcast of The Sober Truth.
Bye.